Welcome back to my hometown. Thanks for taking a little time to join me today. Please welcome my guest. She is a lifelong resident of Bowie, a graduate of Bowie ISD, of Texas A&M and TCU. She is a wife, a mother of 3 energized boys, and for the last 5 years has been the coordinator for Kids for Truth at Central Baptist Church. Please welcome my guest today, Ms. Fallon Richey. Thank you, Fallon, for joining me today.
Thank you.
So, we're going to kind of go back to graduating as a jackrabbit. ISD. Graduated, did you know what you wanted to do when you left Bowie ISD when you graduated?
I knew it was going to be medical. I mean, that was basically what I kind of went forward with, was medical. But I wanted to do nursing anesthetist or, something in that kind of direction.
And graduated from Texas A&M with a Bachelor of Science in
health.
In health.
And so it was kind of midway through like A&M that I was like, I think I want to just go for nursing.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, A&M did not have like a nursing program there at that campus. Well, when you get to A&M, you just kind of fall in love with A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to leave. My parents knew that. And so I just kind of carried on. And so that degree was formed for those that are going on to therapy school, for PT, OT, or for those that wanted to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, I stayed and I graduated from there and earned that Aggie ring.
Because that's the big,
kind of a big
thing.
deal.
Yeah. Because Aggies are a little bit different breed
Mm-hmm.
than everybody else.
Oh, yes.
So how long between A&M then did you go to TCU? Did you go right?
Basically, so I graduated a semester early from A&M, and that was in December of 2008, and then I had to take 15 more hours to get into TCU, a lot of religious classes, and so I had to take those, and I did that online. I stayed at A&M because obviously, you fall in love with College Station too.
You don't want to leave?
No.
Uh-huh.
And so I stayed there and did all the online classes, and then applied to the TCU Accelerated Program for nursing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that program was for those that already have a degree, that it kind of fast tracks you through the nursing program. So, So it was, I graduated in December of 2008, and I started May of 2009.
So, and not working while you were in between?
I did work, but just like at a tanning salon,
Nothing
fabulous.
And so, we talked about you are married.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you get married? During that time, after college?
So it was after, it was at the end of the nursing. So that was 15 months to get that degree.
At
TCU. Yes. And so I knew who Chase was, but I didn't, we never, dated or anything. I was, too focused on just having a great time at A&M.
So he's still here in Bowie, right?
Around,
so
yes,
around working, and then you're down there. So how do you connect?
I know, because I said I would not marry. I would not probably come back to Bowie and a marry Bowie guy.
So when you left the great town of Bowie, did you say, I'm not coming back? I don't want to come back.
I did.
Why?
Because I think you just have a lot of dreams, I guess. Dreams of going, you have ideals of the big city. You think, I'm going to go to the big city, and I love the city life. And my parents were, big advocates of, get out there, experience. They never said, do not come back.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just get out there and experience the world. And so that's just kind of what they instilled in me, and that's what I wanted to go out there and do. But I did always love the city and stuff like that. And so anyway, so when I moved back to Fort Worth and was attending TCU, it was toward the end of that program that my mom and Haley, my sister-in-law now, were both school teachers at the elementary, and they both just discussed this little matchmaking, and they exchanged numbers, and of course we already kind of knew each other, but
Exchanged numbers of you and Chase for each other.
Yes, and so, and I first said no, no, I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna focus on this, but anyway, we just started texting, and then we kind of had our first date, and 1 year to that first date, we got married. So
really,
but yeah, so around the time that we got engaged, I was starting my career there at Cook Children's, and then it was just a little bit into that we
So then you moved back when you got married, and then you were driving back and forth to Cooks.
Yes, yeah, we debated kind of where to kind of, purchase a home and stuff like that. But he was working within the county, and so at that time, and with his job, we knew that it might be where we would switch, but I just kept thinking, well, if we start a family, my family's here, and so we debated, Fort Worth and Bowie, but ultimately we decided on Bowie, and I wasn't so sure for a very long time. I kind of
even after you decided, and we're living here.
And I had a lot of people that came up to me and said, I can't believe you're back in Bowie, or what are you doing now? And
so what's your response when you're really unsure about being back in Bowie?
I said, good question. I'm just, but most of the time I just said, good question, but I'm here, and I'm still working in Fort Worth. And at that time I was kind of living the two lifestyles that I wanted to be, living here in Bowie and with my husband, home every night. But then I was, at the time, was working night shift, and so then I was able to go to Fort Worth, which I left Fort Worth, and be a nurse there, and so I kind of was living both, dreams. And so no, it was fine. It was just there for a while. I thought, what am I doing?
What am I doing here? Back here. When I said I'm not coming back here.
Yes, yeah.
And so, how long after you got married and you were working at Cooks, did you have your first child?
So we got married in April 2011, and our first one came in December of 2012. So Chase a little bit older than me, so
There's no wasting time.
No.
And so then, do you keep, even after the first one, do you keep working at Cooks? And
I did. I worked up to the point we didn't know that I was pregnant with our second, but he was leaving to go work at China. And so there was already like some things kind of evolving with our first, and so thinking about him being there and what did our child need. And so I really was not wanting to resign, but I knew that was probably the best decision for our family, and so I resigned, and I'd already reduced kind of my days at that point, after I had our first, but so I resigned, and then he went to China.
So is that a hard transition from wanting a career, starting a career, going through all the school you did, then to resign and be a mom? Because I think sometimes when you're driven in a career mindset, and then I think moms probably experience this way more than dads do, because they just keep working and moms take care of everything.
Right.
But when a mom really wants a career, but then there's also, as you said, there's things that require your attention at home, and with Chase being gone, was that some adjusting to get used to?
It was. And it was something we communicated a lot, about, because he was very supportive of me continuing, at Cook Children's, but I'm also that type A personality that, I'm, like you said, very driven and wanting to be there at that career, but it ultimately came to what was most important. And at that time, our son was starting, with therapy, and then we just prayed about it and thought about it, and I just, at that time, just really felt like my stress load was to that point where I was going to have to make a decision. But I had left it very open there at Cooks, that I could easily come back in, which I did. But yes, it was very hard to just let it go. And I'm kind of a planner, and so I really had everything kind of, just detailed in your life of what you think it's the route you think you're going to go on.
Then this, and
yes, and there was a lot of, potential of, I'd become a charge nurse there at Cooks, and a lot of, things that you could see, wow, I could really go in this direction here. But then, what I've learned is God takes you on some different turns, and you can fight against it or you can go with it. And so,
and sometimes we fight against it, but He's still going to get us in line eventually.
Yes.
So with, you mentioned that there's some issues with your son, and how does that happen? When you experience those in a small town, everybody knows pretty much everybody. Everybody wants to know your business. They may not know your business, but they may want to.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that, are there struggles there when that happens?
Yes.
And how do you deal with those? And how did you overcome that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of wanting to close off,
Mm-hmm.
not say anything,
Mm-hmm.
keep quiet, just ignore people.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't go in public places, I don't have to address anything.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you overcome those issues?
I definitely went about it the wrong way. And now looking back, there's things I kind of wish, now that you're older and you really look back and what you know now, I wish I would have done differently. But at that time, again, I was kind of a planner. And, when you have your first, you think, this is how this year's going to go. And then toddler years are going to go. And then we're going to start here at preschool. And, you just have this in your mind. And, my husband and I, we just kind of everything was going along like we thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just kind of like one day we woke up and it was just like a switch had turned. And it just took a very long time, I would say, a few years to kind of go through the process of what was occurring.
Mm-hmm.
But basically it was just kind of overnight we had major regression. And so it started with doctor visits, and then us both just going, what's going on? And I'm the medical person, so I should know,
Mm-hmm.
and I had no clue what was going on and how to approach it. And so we did have our family support here, which was wonderful. But even then, some of our family didn't understand. And, like my grandparents, it was very upsetting to them. And so I just started kind of like shutting down. And it was kind of, I didn't realize how much I had shut down until, just kind of one day you're like, wow, I've really just pulled away completely. But I did, I pulled away from everyone. And I think it's when you're in a hometown, people are always, I hear a lot of people say, oh, they come from a good family. Or, I have expectations, everybody sets expectations,
Mm-hmm.
It's like expectations and assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like I always tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. And I just felt like, here's a girl who comes from a good family, has, a great husband, and, she was really smart, and then here, what is happening,
Mm-hmm.
and their, situation, how, we would go out in public and we weren't for sure how things would go in public
Mm-hmm.
with our kiddo
How he's
at
gonna
that
act,
time.
what was gonna happen.
Yeah, and so it was just, and we'd have people ask, he did lose all of his hair, eyebrows. A lot of people thought he had cancer, and,
Mm-hmm.
and at that time, we just didn't have all of the answers to the questions that we were being asked. And there was a couple of times that I would try to go to church, and it was just like everywhere I went, whether it was to his preschool or to church, I would be pulled out to address something.
Mm-hmm.
And it just got to where you felt very defeated. And like I said, at that time, my husband really, he's my backbone, and he wasn't here because he was, in China working or on a rig somewhere else. And so it just made it to where it's like, the best option is for me to just escape reality and just
Mm-hmm.
stay closed up. Or on those days, I would just kind of push myself to take him to school, but then you're kind of on pins and needles, am I going to get a call,
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of really reshapes you from being yourself.
What thing changed that made you say, I'm not gonna pull away anymore, I'm gonna embrace the difference?
I
Was there a
really,
moment that?
there was a moment, but it was a few years in.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time all this was occurring, I didn't know I was pregnant, and I was already pregnant with our second. And I called him my little ray of sunshine, because when he came, he was so happy and just everything was wonderful, and he's always kept us laughing, and he was the best medicine for the oldest.
Was part of you, I don't know if I can do this times two?
Oh, we discussed that before
Mm-hmm.
we found out. It was all like in one weekend, basically, that I resigned on a Friday, Saturday, he woke up and was picking up handfuls of his hair off his pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And I called my friend at the time and I said, "You're going to have to come shave it. I can't do it."
Mm-hmm.
And that day was Halloween, so we had it all, like, he was a little superhero, so we banded it up, you know,
Yeah.
had him a little, like, cape and the hat. And then it was Sunday that I was like, oh my gosh, you know, here
Mm-hmm.
comes number 2. And this was just not expected. But again, God had a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and we went with it. And I mean, he's been the biggest blessing to me and to my oldest and my husband and our family and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. But yeah, I basically, even though so many people, I've seen it at work, I've seen it in this town, go through much more than what we were going through. But for me, I kind of hit the grief process, and I had to go through those stages of
Mhm.
being mad, blaming myself, you know, just not understanding, and then finally accepting it. And I think the turning point that I finally just accepted it was one day that somebody just said, "Have you ever thought that not only did God bring him to you, but he chose you to be there for him?" You know, if you look from both directions.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, oh my gosh, you know, I'd always looked at it just the one way of, you know, the process.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, when I kind of looked at both ways, I was just like, you know what, that's right. You were brought to me and I was brought to you, and we're going to do this, and we're
Mm-hmm.
going to get through it together. And I remember specifically looking at him and saying that, like, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a team, we got through it.
And so then, did you start sharing more about
Mhm.
what was going on with people?
I just started
as you went back to doing things.
Yes, yeah. I was a little bit more open. I was still kind of closed off a little bit on really verbalizing what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, we had, you know, encountered situations with people close to us that we were just realizing, you know, wow, this is just a lot more than what we're going through. And finally, we just had to say, you know, we're advocating minutes for our kid, and so here we go.
Mm-hmm.
And so there we went with it. And I just kind of gradually would just, you know, show up to school more and being like, you know, this is the way it is. We can do this. Had more of a backbone, I guess. Just
Mm-hmm.
and would start coming to church. At that time, it was like the Awanas. And so my sister-in-laws were like, do not let this slow you down. Get
Mhm.
up here, you know? And
Mhm.
so I just started coming. And even though I might have to go back and forth to that classroom to address things, we brought him.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it. And it was finally when I just let go of the situation. Because, like, again, I want to hold on to things. I want
Mhm.
to fix things. But when I let go, and I remember the day that it happened, and I was just said, you take it.
Mhm.
I'm done with trying. And it was kind of at a clinical trial
Mm-hmm.
that they told us that it would do wonders and it would fix everything. And we barely made it 5 minutes in, and we were just like, we're done.
Yeah.
And when, you know, you just get that look from your child, and it was a look of, why is this happening? You know, why
Mhm.
are we going through this? And just not understanding. And it was just kind of a moment that, just as a family, we were just like, we're done. We're going to give up on trying to fix this ourselves and do things. Didn't mean we just stopped advocating.
Mhm.
Didn't mean we stopped doing therapy and going places. But we were done with just dwelling on trying to fix.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many other details that I'm just skipping over. But for the most part, I gave it over to God.
And how old was he
I'm done.
when that transition happened? When he said, "No, I'm here for you. You're here for me."
Mhm.
How old was he when?
When that happened? I would say that was probably that was the summer before he started kindergarten. And it was within 2 weeks that we started saying mom again. And I hadn't heard that since I was like, he was 15 months
Mhm.
when he stopped saying mom. And he was saying mom again, and it was like we had, you know, started some other things at home, and it was just like a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it may have been right before his pre-K year, maybe a year before that. I'm trying to, it's just a lot. that
So
happened, but
we're talking three to 4 years that
Mhm.
you're going through this
Yes.
with him.
Yes. But when I gave it over to God, and I mean, I just said, I'm done. And, you know, I think it's I always tell some people, it's okay to share your anger with God.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do that. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I might get struck down tomorrow. But I did. I just had to really share my anger. And then I just had to say, you know what? You gave this to us, and you take it now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or, you know, maybe not you gave it to, but, you know, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Now you take it.
Mm-hmm. And
it was just like when I did that, and when my husband and I just, you know, prayed about it and stuff, that is just when the doors just started opening. And I'm pretty sure that was right before we had him at pre-K in Bowie, and I got a phone call from the principal that just said, I don't know what you've done over the summer,
mm-hmm.
but, you know, he was in PPCD. He doesn't really, you know, need to be there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he needs to be full blown, you know, pre-K,
mm-hmm.
and we were just going, okay, you know, and we've hit a couple more bumps along the way, but ever since that moment, we have just made one step forward, one step forward. And I've had, since that moment, so many people come to me and say, you know, I have one say, my career changed because of him. My involvement with him in a school setting has now shifted me to go this direction. Mm-hmm. And I've had others come to me and say, you know, he has been, you know, a change in my life. And so, to me, I've always said that through this, he was my greatest testimony. I would not be the woman I am today. I would not be the mother that I am today if I would not have went through that. Up to that point, my life was pretty easy. I mean, really, growing up, mm-hmm. my life was pretty easy here. And it was fun and, you know, all of that. And my first time to really meet a trial and really find out what faith was, mm-hmm. was us enduring that.
And during that time, you're how old at that time?
That's a good question. In my 20s, but
in your 20s, but
yes,
that's a long time
mm-hmm.
to go without any real
mm-hmm.
challenge.
Yes.
And how old is he now?
He's 10.
He's 10.
Mm-hmm.
And life looks a lot different
It is
now than
we're told over and over. We cannot believe that this is where y'all are, you
mm-hmm.
know, and that where he is. And it's just amazing because it's just over and over we are told, like, wow, or, you know, this kid means so much to us, and, you know, he
mm-hmm.
you know, it's just you know, he's just special. And we are more open with him now that, you know, you were sick at one point, and this is what occurred, and this
mm-hmm.
is why you have to work harder, you know, at this. And so little by little, as he gets older, we share more and
mm-hmm.
more, and, you know, have some explanations that our middle one now has, you know, asked, and
mm-hmm.
things like that. But no, he definitely has a bright future. But no matter what, I will one day, and do tell him at times, but, you know, you're the one that saved me, because
mm-hmm.
I thought I was a Christian, thought I knew what faith was, but he built me up and built our marriage up, and I think his dad would sit here and probably say the same.
And sometimes we don't realize sometimes the lack of faith we have mm-hmm. until we are challenged. Mm-hmm. We can sit in a sanctuary and say we have all kinds of faith. We can live a good life, mm-hmm. so we have all kinds of faith. But then when we get challenged, it questions
yes.
that,
yes.
and then we look back and go, well, do we really have the faith we thought we did?
Mm-hmm.
And I think God puts those things in our path sometimes because of that,
mm-hmm.
And we grow from it.
Yes, and I think it, you know, opens your eyes to, you know, sometimes maybe living in a small town, you see a lot of what you would classify as norm, and I really don't like that word, but, you know, it's just norm. What is norm? Mm-hmm. And when you go through a walk like this, you're just like, throw out the norm. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just be unique. Let's all just be ourselves. And then that's what I got to the point where I was just like, listen, this is who we are. Mm-hmm. This is what's going on. And, you know, here we are. And just had to be transparent. I mean, that is my biggest thing that I continue to tell people, is just be transparent. Just say this is what's going on. That's one thing I love about this church, is there's so many of us that are very transparent about what we're going through right now, or through the past, or anything like that. And we're, you know, able to help others that are, you know, going through similar situations. And but yeah, it's been a journey. It's
Because growing up in this town, and just like you say, well, you come from this family, those are norms that people are maybe stuck with. That it's, well, I'm supposed to act a certain way, I'm supposed to do a certain thing, I'm supposed to go to this college, I'm supposed to go to this.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm supposed to get this career.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think we need to be a community full of uniqueness.
Yes, yeah.
And not of the norms. And
I was often told, like, I remember specifically where I was, and when I was asked, said, I cannot believe, you moved back here. We figured you'd go do big things. And I'm like, well, who said I'm not going to? Why can't I do that right here? And I mean, it's just like, but.
I think that's a good point, that sometimes we don't think we can do big things where we are.
Right, yeah. And now honestly, I have no regret being back here. When people say, it's just the other day at the carnival, somebody said, so you're back here, you live here? And I said, I sure do, and I'm proud of it. And
a little different tone now.
Yes, and I know my God brought me back here, and that's because, in any other school, my kid would be just a number. Here, he is viewed as an individual, and part of a family, just, to me, he is, his journey has been better being here. Surrounded by family that has his back, and friendships that we've formed, and just advocates. I feel like here, it's just, the more transparent we got, the more advocates we got for him, and friendships for us, and advocates for us, and that we can turn around and be for others. And so, yeah, my viewpoint is definitely different. And
And being brought back here, being married, staying here, life changing. You can connect dots and see why you're brought here, the difference it's made for your family, and a difference that's made for our community, or difference for our community, as in, you talked about Awanas, which was before Kids for Truth. My girls went to Awanas when they were little. It's the best program they'd ever been in, and hands down, I still think it is. They learned so much. And that program has transitioned into Kids for Truth at Central Baptist. And we were talking in 2018, there was 30 kids. And we're now 2023. And just recently, 170, 180 kids?
So we have 188 registered right now. And our first night, we had 169. That's what we collectively think. It's kind of a funny, among all of us, kind of a joke, but we take attendance on our iPads that we have, and so I have this number. Well, then the guys at the front, they have a clicker, and they do a great job getting every kid, but they have a different number. And then the kitchen ladies, they keep up with the plate count. Well, then they have a different number. So we just take the highest number. And we're like, there you go. So anyway, 169 is what we came up with for our first night, and that's the biggest we have ever had.
And so you've been coordinator about 5 years. So when you were approached with taking that position, what was your initial reaction? Was it like, yes, I'll do that? Or was it like, no?
I just looked right at my sister-in-law and said no. She said it very passively. She got up and was saying how she wanted to kind of change, and she was the one that had brought in Awanas, done amazing, and she was wanting to kind of shift into being there more for like her children that had grown up, and anyway, she said, I kind of vote Fallon, and I just looked up and said no. I'm like, what are you thinking? And so I said no for about a year.
And what was your your reasoning?
That was the time I was leaving Cook Children's for the second time. It was around that time, or it was a little bit longer, but that was kind of when I was starting to kind of transition again. But I just didn't really think that I was worthy enough. I mean, that I'd only been kind of helping with the, coming back into the program on Wednesdays for about 2 years at that point, maybe. And I just didn't feel like there's no way I could teach. I mean, I hadn't even read the whole Bible yet, like, how can I do this? And I had been helping teach, but it was just like, I just felt like
Because everybody that teaches has read the whole Bible, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
I've been
prerequisite.
told that so many times since then, and I laugh about it because I'm like, it's okay. These kids are going to teach you more about their questions, So anyway, but I just prayed about it. That's when I resigned again at Cook's and decided to stay home full time with my boys. And that time was a little bit easier to make that decision. I knew at that point, this is where I need to be. And so I just enjoyed doing events. I love doing birthday parties and all of that. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. And my husband was just like, no, do not do this. And I just looked at him and thought, well, I'm really going to do it now.
You said no.
Yeah, but I think he was just, he was just joking with me. He knew I would stress, and all of that with it. And so, but I think also he knew by telling me no that I was probably definitely going to do it. So anyway.
And so the in the last 5 years, the program has really grown. What would you contribute to it growing? I might have an idea from the outside looking in, but what would your?
We ask ourselves this quite often, and I give it all back to the volunteers. I mean, I come up with ideas at times. Some of them have come up with ideas, and we go with it. But it is truly the volunteers that have stuck with me that still are being added to right now. We have a great team, and they build this program. And so I would give it back to them. I may post on Facebook and, come up with theme nights and, different things that we can do, but it is truly the team that we have here at Central Baptist that really makes the program into what it is.
And when you say team, I want to commend Central Baptist because you say team and volunteers, but for me, I look at it as it's the whole church is all in. Wednesday night, there's no Wednesday night service for the adults. It's all focused on the kids. It's, all hands on deck. There's no sermons preached. The kitchen is full of ladies that are cooking, making desserts. You're planning. There's teachers that teach, people that have activities. And it's just amazing that the whole church pours into the kids. And I think that isn't seen very often. And it makes such a huge difference that they're the focus. It's not their little part of the church. They're a big part of the church. Because those kids will grow and they will come back to the church. And do you find that they bring their parents in? Because some of these kiddos, their parents probably don't come to church, right?
Right.
Their parents drop them off. Their parents go out for a date because they know their kiddo's going to be fed and get to play and get to learn a little bit about Jesus. Right. And they're going to come back while parents go do whatever they want to do. Do you find that those parents, some parents come to church because their kids have come here?
We have definitely grown on Sundays. And it is a lot, from what we see and what we gather is from Kids for Truth. That, their kids enjoy coming, then they kind of might come on a Sunday or watch online, and then they started coming. So we have seen a growth in the members that have joined and then end up being volunteers for Kids for Truth. But we're very open. Like, I've had some people that don't attend here on Sundays that have asked, hey, can I help with Kids for Truth? I'm just like, sure. Like, come on, this is really... It was not planned this way. It just evolved kind of like this, but it's really just a community program. It may be based here at Central, and we supply it, but it has really become just so much more. And so we always refer to it as a community outreach kids ministry program. So
it's members, maybe non-members volunteering. It's just... No, I like
but
that.
It is all hands on deck.
It is.
It's right now, I think I've already been looking at Christmas items to get back to them. And so I think there's like 50. And that's including, the men at the front, to the kitchen ladies, to all the ones that are involved in the classrooms. And
And these are 50 volunteers that are helping on a regular basis each week. Because it takes a lot of people to handle that many.
And we have floaters, and so, I mean, I would say maybe more like 40 that are up here every Wednesday. But yes, it does. We can, our numbers have continued to just grow. And that is probably the biggest obstacle that the program has had is the numbers. But it's the biggest blessing. But again, at times we all just go, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? But then I'm like, it's fine. There'll be a way. We will be shown a way. We'll make this work. And we've had to kind of change, the schedule up some, or switch rooms, or add another volunteer. But we're still making it work, and just continue to pray for maybe a bigger building or something that we can continue to expand. But anyway, it thrills us just seeing all the kids come in and the excitement that they have. You walk the elementary schools when I subbed there, or the teachers there that will tell me, these kids are like, is it church day? Is it church day? Wearing their Kids for Truth shirts. And so it's a pretty amazing.
They're excited, they want to come, they want to be. And all the volunteers are a great help, all the kids coming. But I want to commend you, because I talked to some of your sister-in-laws and others that are involved in the program, and they say that you are an amazing organizer. You have great ideas, and the growth is also because of what you've done to offer them great material, to help them be better teachers, to help them be better volunteers.
That's very sweet.
So that is also to you too, to help the community and to help the program. It makes a difference. And in coming up in March, right? We're having and I think this is great. You're having a community-wide event that'll include other churches, correct?
Yes.
So what kind of?
So last year, for one of our theme nights, we brought in, and it was a dog show, but it was like an entertainer that came in with a message that we had watched at camp. And so we had it for just our kids, and it was a great success. Well, then this year I was like, well, what could we do? Well, we saw somebody else at camp, this summer, and we thought, well, let's try to bring this one in. But it was pretty pricey. And I've always said that I would love to see like one big VBS. But that's just trying to find the place that that would work. It was just almost impossible. But for all churches just to come in with such a small community, like how awesome would that be? So when Rick and I and a couple of others started talking, I was just like, let's go bigger. Let's go bigger. And they were like, okay, let's do this. And so Rick is the coordinator for that. But she's been really piecing it together, and so she reached out to some churches, and right now we've got, I believe, 4 main churches, with others that are interested or have called her and kind of inquired about it. But yes, we're going to have it at the community center, and they were gracious enough to just donate the building for us. And we're inviting other, it's not like public drop off, because they do kids and everything, but it's like other church kids ministry programs come, and we're going to watch this chemistry show that I think the kids will really love. But just all be there together, just in one house together. And so Lighthouse has gotten with us, First Baptist, Southside, and so we're excited. So we're still inviting any other church within the community. We even had somebody reach out from Okona. They would like to come over, and so we're like, okay. And so we are reaching out to businesses within the community that if they would like to donate to this, so that no church is out any cost to provide this for our kids. And we've already had quite a response, and so
that's great.
Yeah, so we're kind of excited that and more than anything is, it may be hard on us, but we want the kids to see. We want to see the kids, see all the churches and their friends from other churches, coming in together and saying, like, we can be all together in one house, praising the one God. And so, and it kind of from there expanded to where, like, some of us, those 4 are coming together to do work together on See You at the Pole. And so, I mean, it's kind of started something where we're all joining up together, so I love that.
Mm-hmm. And it has a bigger impact.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when kids see that, well, it's not, well, you go to church here, you go to church here. We're going to see each other because we're going to do things together as church, because every church has one goal in mind.
Mm-hmm. That's
and they all share,
right. Yeah.
Learning about Jesus and God and what they have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not do it collectively and have a bigger impact on our community?
Yes.
Because each church can do amazing things, but putting them all together can radically change the way our community looks.
Yes. Yeah. So we're excited, and I think it'll be quite the success, and maybe something we can continue to do every year. So.
Mm-hmm. And what for Kids for Truth, it starts at what grade level?
3-year-olds.
3-year-olds.
Yes. So we start at 3-year-olds, and we go to 5th grade, and then from there they move on to our youth swag
and so youth is swag, and so those numbers include Kids for Truth and swag.
No.
That's just Kids for Truth.
Just Kids for Truth.
Okay.
And then we.
So that doesn't include the junior high and high school.
No. So what's happened is they've built too. They've got amazing leaders too, and they and every year we're pushing them now pretty much like 25 kids, and so they continue to just grow and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could be so wrong on this, but I think they were around like 75 on that first night, or they've been kind of around the 70s, I feel like. And so that is not, our 169 was not including their 70.
So we're talking close to 250.
Yeah.
Wow.
That come here. Yeah.
That's on one night, on a Wednesday night, on a normal Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Yes. And
That's a big impact.
Yes. And I mean, kudos to the kitchen ladies, because
That's a lot of food.
Vicki and Luann, she does all of the cookies. She bakes the cookie for each kiddo, and I mean, yeah, it's just incredible. It has just been an amazing thing to watch and see, just every year just grow. And I've had people come up to me that have said, I can't teach, Fallon. What are you thinking? And I'm like, oh, but you can. I'll help you, and you can do this. And then just to see how those individuals have just blossomed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just all the way around. This program has not only been there for children, but it has reshaped or molded in these teachers, and all the way to the kitchen, and then all the way to the youth. And so it's just we're just letting God take us, and we're just rolling with it.
And we can do a lot more than we ever think possible.
Yes.
And it's all the different lives that are touched, from teachers to kids to parents to the community.
Yes, and so I think like what we talked about earlier about what we went through with, our son and everything, is I've had numerous parents that have come to me and said, well, I want to come, but I'm not for sure if this setting would, work for my child.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, just come. We'll figure it out. This is a very overstimulating place, obviously, with that many kids. But we'll figure it out. And if we have to do baby steps at first, we will. But the doors are open, and do not let this keep you from shutting out like we did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've really met a lot of parents share that with me, and they don't even know my story, but it's like it's in those moments that okay, God took me through that so that I can get that kid here and that one here, and we will make this work. And we've done that for a lot here, and I love seeing them being able to come, and my team being able to, just embrace those kids, and they get through it, and we get through it together. And so it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that we know that sometimes we have to, it's so hard to be patient through our mess, but that one day our mess will be our message. And we can make all the difference because of that mess. That if we never went through that, we couldn't serve someone else.
Right, I agree 100%. And I had somebody once ask me, if you could go back to that time when there was that switch, and you could change whatever occurred for your son, for him, for none of this to happen, would you? And I mean, that seems like a very easy answer, but I just sat there, And I just said, man, to save him from going through any of this, you know, all of the needles and all the doctors and all the tests and all that, oh yeah, absolutely, you know, I would go back for him. But for me and what it did for our family, for me as an individual, my husband as an individual, oh, I just don't know. Because I would not be where I'm at. I don't even know if I would be doing this program. You know, I'd probably still be there at Cook Children's, you know, doing that dream. And yeah, just go in that direction. But it's just like, man, no, like, I feel like, again, greatest testimony. And he was, you know, my greatest testimony. And so it's just hard to look back because, you know, I feel like this is, you know, where God has carried us and brought us to and been there right with us as we went the different turns. And so right now everybody's like, you know, when I had my latest, they said, you're not going to leave, are you? And I was like, well,
just a few months ago.
Yeah. And so they're like, you're not going to leave, are you? And I was like, well, I mean, right now I never dreamed this is where I would be. I never dreamed I'd be doing something like this, you know, again, thought I'd be doing nursing and working my way up there. But right now I'm just along for the ride and enjoying it and just trying to, you know, make a difference in the kids' lives right now and other people and just be their advocates and their supporters and yeah.
And changing lives in Bowie, Texas.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be in the city.
No.
Doesn't have to be a college station.
No.
Doesn't have to be somewhere fancy. It can be out of the norm, and you can change lives.
That's right.
What makes you call Bowie my hometown? Raised, grown up here, but what's it mean to you when you say Bowie's my hometown?
Family. And I don't mean just my immediate family. My entire family's here for the most part, besides a few cousins, and my husband's family is here. So our kids are surrounded by cousins and their grandparents, and then they got to know my, you know, great grandparents before I, you know, lost some of them. And so that family makes it my home. But also the family, once I kind of, because when you move back, you have to, believe it or not, build other relationships, because all of your friends that you grew up with in high school, they kind of go different directions. Some are here, but they're kind of doing their life. And so you have to rebuild those relationships with, you know, new people and stuff. And man, you know, we've got an amazing group, and here is everybody at Kids for Truth is like an extended family to me. And I think my husband would say the same thing, my kids, but even though half of them are family, but it's just the family connections. I mean, right now Rika's in the other room watching my little one, and she's like, you know, an extended, you know, sister to me. And so I just, when I think of Bowie and hometown, it's our family. It's our family, from our church family to my own family to, you know, my friends that I count as family. And so, and I think if you interviewed every volunteer here that helped the Kids for Truth, I think they would say, this is my family, more than they would say, you know, these are my peers. You know, I think they would say the same. So when I think of hometown and I think of Bowie, it's the family.
And I think with family, we're generally interested in, more invested. And I think that's what makes the difference, is you're invested in them doing better, being better. And I think when we do that, it's different than just being a peer or just a kid that comes to visit, that will leave and we don't see them.
Right.
One thing, you did mention family when I sent you a little form to fill out. Little bit, you gave me great detail. But I just want to read one thing that you wrote that I want to share with everybody, because I think it's important to leave them with. It says, you said, all in all, Bowie is family. So if there's one advice I can give anyone in or moving to our community, it is be you. There is no norm. There is no perfection. Be transparent. Stand tall with what God has carried you through, and shine with your uniqueness.
That's right.
And I think so many people come to our community and don't share their uniqueness,
Mm-hmm.
and don't share what God has brought them through.
Mm-hmm.
We try to hide our uniqueness, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that people come to our community. I hope that community members allow others to allow their uniqueness to shine. That's a challenge to us as individuals, to let our uniqueness shine. That's also a challenge to allow others' uniqueness to shine, because that's sometimes harder, I think,
Mm-hmm.
to let others be unique and still be accepting.
Mm-hmm.
As Christians, should we be accepting? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Are we? Not always.
And we've learned that. Yeah, but
In a perfect world, the Bible says yes, we should be accepting,
Mhm.
but we are human,
mm-hmm.
and we don't always follow that. The Bible says we should be faithful. Sometimes we're not always faithful. So he has to challenge us sometimes to say, how faithful are you? Sometimes he has to put somebody super unique in our path
Mm-hmm.
to say, how accepting are you?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And those are things, just as you've learned all these years, your son was a gift
Mm-hmm.
to you.
Mm-hmm.
You look, maybe how we're going to get through this. This is a burden. This is a challenge. This is tough. Why would God do this?
Mm-hmm.
But one day you said, this is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Exactly.
radically changed your life.
Yeah.
And changed his life.
Yeah, there was a time I was in a very dark hole and depressed, and it was a strain, even on our marriage, and everything. And it's just, Chase and I just now look back and we look at it differently at times, but there's just, so much that we do just look back and go, wow,
Mm-hmm.
God has this journey. And I hope one day that Canon, listens to this, or because I've wrote some things down, and I hope that he is never ashamed, and that he is never embarrassed, or anything like that, because, man, kiddo, without you, where would I be?
Mhm.
Like, how lost would I be? How many others that you have touched in your special way that you didn't even know what you were doing? And so it's just amazing. I just look at it this way, man, I'm not even to 40, and God, you've already took me through all of this. What else do you have in store? So I sure hope I can make it through it. But I will definitely say we've got more of a support system, and I just, for a long time, I didn't want to share our story, and like you said, hide behind. But then I thought, okay, how many others? I don't want anybody to go through what we did and to shut off.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to be, accepting, and just open of like, hey, this is what we're going through, this is what we got, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
It's okay.
Yeah. So be you.
Be you. And all kids are welcome to be themselves, to come.
Mm-hmm.
All their parents, all those that aren't parents are more than welcome to come. Be you, be unique. And Central Baptist and the community will support you.
That's right.
That's our challenge to ourselves. That's our challenge to our community, is to be that uniqueness and support that uniqueness.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Fallon, for being on today. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate you sharing your story, and sharing the heart of Kids for Truth and the church for our community, because it's so important that our hometown has those in our community that do that, because we are our community, and if we want change, we have to be the change.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts with us. So thank you so much, and thank you for offering your time and taking the time to do that, because I know it's a lot of work to make that program run with over 200 kids. I just can't believe that.
I can't either.
That's a lot of kids. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you to each of you for stopping by and joining us today. We look forward to seeing you around my hometown.